Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever time it is, wherever you're coming from. Cowboys Nation, you know the drill. Welcome to the Double XO Show.
What's up, Cowboys Nation? Thank you for joining us again today on the Double XO Show. I am your host, Zach White. With me, my host, Camber Michelle, Daryl Clark. How are we doing today, guys?
Doing great, man.
Hey, so we got a big game coming up. It's the boys versus the Bolts, right? It's going to be a great game. We're going to be in LA, so it's the battle in Los Angeles. That's why we are all here, right? To discuss the battle in Los Angeles. So it's going to be, there's a lot of key aspects to this game, and we're going to cover some of these key aspects throughout this show. One of the most important things right now, some of the early concerning things that we have is right now we have Randy Gregory out going through COVID protocol. He's had some symptoms, but supposedly he's asymptomatic, so we're not getting a lot of information there. But right now, as far as matchups are concerned, when you start to think about their line, you start to think about that young offensive tackle, Rashawn Slater out there, one of the guys that we all kind of had high hopes for as far as landing in the draft, is coming out. Of course, he did the same thing against Chase Young that he had done to him back in college, put him on his ass, right? Damn good rookie. With Randy Gregory out, that would technically be his side. Do you guys think there's a pass rusher that we currently have on this team that can compete with them? Can compete with Rashawn Slater? Cam, what do you got?
Dorrance Armstrong's shown some flashes, but I don't know if he's shown enough flash. Rashawn, that guy's a beast, and he showed it. You know, anybody that can manhandle Chase, it's definitely a concern.
Definitely, I agree. And so, and speaking of offensive tackle issues, we kind of put our eyes in towards the Lyle Collins situation that's currently going on right now, right? There's a lot of confusion about everything that happened, this 5-game suspension that he got, and we got some questions, right? We got some questions, and there's a lot involved as far as the rules in this. And Dean, I know that you were able to do some investigative work and kind of find out what was going on a little bit inside that. The rules state for a failure to cooperate with testing or clinical care, it can go into multiple things, right? It's either a fine or it's potentially the violation is to miss a certain amount of time, right? So that was a lot of the confusion that was going on there. Nowhere in there, though, did we see a missing amount or 5 games in particular. Is there what information do you have on that can kind of lead to, like, do you think this is a suspect suspension, or do you think it's legitimate?
Now, hold on now, player. I'm a black man in America. You can't be painting me like I was snooping around the NFL offices, investigative reporting. I just read. I just downloaded the document and read it. You're about to get me.
You got your law degree.
Nah, man. I don't want that.
No. He got his law degree. Remember,
I'm just
he
saying,
got his law degree in the last 3 days. Come on now.
Y'all got to use the right words when you look. I'm a brother in America. I wasn't investigating anything, Roger. I was nowhere in New York. I just downloaded the document and read it.
That's my research. Investigation.
I research.
Fine.
Yeah, bro.
Fine.
You got me around here like I'm deep throat, like I'm snooping around. No. Roger, it wasn't me. No. Anyway, man, I know it's been a lot of chatter, and the three of us, we hopped on, and you know what I mean, and we started talking about it. And I think it's as simple as this. I think I would encourage all of us to just download. Download it and read it. It's very, I think, after we read it a couple of times, it's sort of self-explanatory, I think, where the league is going with Lyle Collins. And it seems to me, if you go to the very end, I think it's Appendix E, it outlines very clearly what there's some things the player must do if they're going to miss any tests. And I think, again, it's sort of, again, and I'm being brief, if you're going to miss, you got to communicate it, and then they're going to work together, the player, agent, and the advisory board, to determine, and here's the big thing, they're going to determine if you were trying to evade, right, the test. And if they determine that it was an evasive, not just a miss, then you go up into that discipline phase, and they're either going to discipline you one of two ways. For truly a missed test, and Cam, you guys have said this, if it's truly a missed test that they did not think you were trying to evade, then it's just a fine, right? They're just going to fine you. But obviously, if they've suspended Lyle, that means that they've determined that those missed tests were him trying to evade, or you know what I mean, or lie to the advisory board. And that has a whole different set of discipline. And those can be up through the first four. That's a fine. And I may be wrong. It's the first five, I think. But after that fifth one, then that's where it becomes suspensions. And so obviously with him being in the suspension category, it is no doubt, no doubt in my mind after reading it again, that they're trying to make a case. Now, none of us know the facts or what happened, but they're going to try to make a case that they think that he was being evasive or intentionally not communicating and missing those tests. And the other piece, guys, that, we've heard a lot about this week is the number of tests. Now, you guys remember that this is something that was collectively bargained between the players and the owners. They signed this document. They agreed to abide by these rules. The other piece of information in there is they agreed that they can test a player up to 10 times a month. So, if that's what they in fact did for whatever reason, they're perfectly within the rules according to that document to test him. And again, if he didn't communicate or he didn't meet any of those tests, he had requirements to do. So it seems like, again, not knowing all the facts, but it seems pretty clear that he's in violation of this document, and his lawyers got a long uphill battle if they're going to get them off of this hill. And I don't think Roger Goodell has been involved yet because he's part of the appeal process. So he wasn't going to be involved in the initial disciplinary decision. So that's, again, what I got from reading it. And again, it's out there for all of us to read if you choose or not, or you can just have an opinion.
See, yeah. I mean, and 10 games to me does feel, 10 games. 10 tests a month seems a little excessive, personally, to me. But first, I want to commend you on your amazing investigative supporting right there. I really got some unsolved mystery vibes from you. It was really full of juice.
Scooby-Doo was in Scooby-Doo was in the DNA when I was a kid.
Geraldo Rivera over there.
There it is. There it is. But Cam, you said that, I mean, from my understanding is that you picked up that he had missed, 7 tests total? Is that 7 tests?
Yeah, the numbers have been all over the place. I mean, we've heard that, that he had missed, that they had tested him, 180 times or something like that. I've also heard more in the lines that it was 16 times and he missed 7 of those.
Right.
So, we don't know that aspect and, that particular detail. There is thought in, I think it was Mickey Spagnolia that was on 105.3 The Fan yesterday that I heard that some of those tests were missed because it was during COVID and facilities weren't open and hard to get to. Then I can't remember who was on the Fan today. I just caught a moment of it and they were like, oh no, it was Michael Irving. Michael Irving was on the Fan this morning and he flat out said he doesn't understand how you miss, how you don't cooperate, because they're right there in the room and they're like, we're going to sit here until you pee. So,
yeah,
he had a hard time even understanding how someone would miss 1, nonetheless 7. So I think there's a whole lot more to the story, and we'll see if we actually get the details on it.
Yeah.
And see, guys, again, for me, the circumstances, it isn't that they're irrelevant. Again, according to that document that they signed, they are required to notify the administrator if they're going to miss. It's a requirement. So him saying it was COVID, whatever, he still had a requirement. Their job is to notify, and then they work together, the player and this advisory person, to determine that they did, in terms of communication, that they weren't trying to evade. That is something that they have to work with. And the thing here, I think, man, is that he clearly didn't do that piece. For whatever reason, he felt like he didn't show up. He was required to call them and notify them. He clearly did not do that, because again, if he did, this would be a fine situation. It wouldn't be a suspension situation. So he has caused the folks on the other side, his actions has caused them to determine that he was evading. And I think that's the key piece is if there's deception or evasion and they make that determination, then they can suspend you. So that's the piece for us to focus on is what was he doing to cause them to make that determination, right? I mean, we keep saying it's the missed test, but it isn't the missed test. It's what he did not communicate to miss the test, I think, is what is going to be the key to sort of listen for in the coming weeks if they're going to appeal this. It could be just posturing, but who knows?
It's interesting because you brought up the point, D, that the team wouldn't know if he wasn't showing up because that was how it was written into the agreement, which is really bizarre to me because in my former life, when I was married, we owned a moving company and our drivers would get pulled by DOT for a drug test. We were notified immediately and they had 3 hours to get to a facility and test. And how that got written into that the team that's employing, they're not, I mean, I guess they're contract employees, but they're kind of not. The team would not be aware that he's missing that many tests. It's kind of a strange situation to me.
Man, it feels so. There's just some weird kind of rules and things that you like when you start diving deeper into this. Some things just don't add up on both sides, and it gets to a point to where, like, if he could try and fight it, but we all know it doesn't matter if you're Tom Brady, Ezekiel Elliott, you're gonna lose when it comes to to the Shield, right? You're gonna lose. So at this point in time, it feels like, and I know he's kind of got some guys working on it, trying to get out of the suspension. It's not gonna happen. And at this point in time, I would almost rather take those lumps now, this early in the season, than for the later part of the season when we're really gonna need him when we got facing guys like Von Miller back out there who is healthy and looking good, and Nick Chubb and stuff like that. I'm not interested in that. If we got to miss this game, this is going to be the one that hurts, right? You got Joey Bosa out there, and that is the big part of all of this right now. This is where it's really going to hit us hard. It's going to hurt our team. Joey Bosa is coming in, and yes, Terrence Steele is going to be out there. From everything that we're hearing from Jerry Jones, that's what's being reported. They're going to rock with Steele. We all know what happened with Steele last year, and
you'll see Bosa.
It's hard to defend
him. Great
comes
football
in
players,
unrestricted,
Bosa having a day right now.
Free agent, and comes in and looks abysmal. I
miserable
didn't see a lot of improvement in the offseason when it came to anything, really. He was still giving up sacks.
I'm a sucker for pain. I got the squad tatted on me from my neck to my ankles. Pushing from the man, got us all in rebellion. We gon' go to war, yeah, without failure. Do it for the fam, dog. 10 toes down, dog. Love and the loyalty, that's what we start. Feeling the world go against us, so we put the world on our shoulders. Take my hand to the flame.
It almost feels like he's going to get his regardless. What can we do to protect Dak Prescott?
We're going to have both tight ends out there, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yep. I mean, I think now look, I think I saw something earlier, Cam and Zach, where someone broke down the personnel groupings from last week. We are going to run a shit ton of 12 personnel, right? 1 back, 2 tight ends. But I think they're going to have to protect. I happen to think that you slow Bosa down a couple of different ways. You do it with your personnel groupings. You do it with having your back chip him if they're going to be out, right? You do it with, even boots with your tight end coming back across formation, but you got to run multiple people at multiple angles, towards him and make him go around because it's going to be disappointing if they put Steele out on an island and ask him. I think you protect the player. Protect your player, man. Don't even put him in a position to get your quarterback hurt and hurt the game plan. And just, go into the game plan knowing that you got a top 5, 10 pass rusher on the other side, and by formation and by play calling, you help your player out by design, right? You first off run right at that sucker. I mean, you literally run, at Bosa. You do screen. We should see the screen game if he's going to come tearing off that corner, you got to screen them to death. You got to get them slowed down with your play calling and your formations. I think that's what we do here.
I'm going to say that it was interesting that Mike McCarthy in his presser today kind of backstepped from Jerry announcing that Steele was going to be there and that they're still looking at options and that there would be help there. And I don't know if that's more so of, hey, Jerry, don't show our hand. No, but why give them 5 days, 6 days to figure, know what we're going to be doing? Maybe let them guess if it's going to be Nasheki or it's going to be Steele or if we are moving Martin out there. But he kind of backpedaled on some of that just to be like, hey, and that's really what should be happening. The coaches should be saying it and not Jerry.
That's exactly.
And Cam, that's why I covered. Right, that's why I covered my head when you said Jerry. Come on, man, we go through this every year. What's he doing?
And
I cannot stand when he does that, man. It's so frustrating.
It does. It feels like we're almost showing our cards in a way. I mean, you would be a fool not to think that Joey Bosa isn't looking at all the film on Terrence Steele and looking for weaknesses and things in ways that he can beat him, because I guarantee you he's going to do that. If you're not sure if you're going to put Nasheki or Steele out there, that's two players' films he's got to watch. It takes up a little bit more of his time. We got to use things like that to our advantage. That Jerry doing Jerry things is frustrating. But as both of you guys kind of mentioned, Zeke is going to have to be a factor as well and kind of maybe chipping this guy or getting screens or whatever it is. I know there was some issue with run versus pass last week. It was kind of a thing, right? Dak threw for 58 attempts. Go ahead, Derek.
I would ask you guys, would you guys be willing to start a GoFundMe? If I would literally donate money to have Mike McCarthy, brother, I would donate to paying his salary if he could look into the camera and go, maybe Jerry should shut the fuck up. I would donate. I'd go, Mike, the fans will pay your salary, brother. If you somebody needs to tell Jerry to shut the F up.
And we'll help him update his LinkedIn because he'll be looking for a new job.
I know, right? So I'm like,
but that works because
GoFundMe.
You don't want McCarthy there anyway, so that would
That's true.
That's a double beautiful thing for you right there. That works out both ways. But so Prescott throws for 58 attempts last week, and it was an issue, right? But then we kind of were a little bit confused about the game plan and like, why are we throwing that many times? Why didn't we get Zeke more involved? And you got John Machalla that kind of came in and cleared some of that up. He said that Cowboys OC Kellen Moore said they're not going to bang their head against the wall and keep running if there's nothing there. So 28 runs were called Thursday night. Dak checked out of 12 of them because of the look of the Buccaneers. The NFL's best run defense last season were showing. So that's one of those things like we have to keep in mind. Like, you can game plan all you want. Your quarterback has control. If you don't see something you like, you're gonna get out of it, right? Of course you are. So having said that, I do expect to see Zeke running the ball more this week. I really do. I don't think this defensive line is as big of a concern from a run game standpoint. I think that we can actually do really well in the run against these guys. I think we've got a really good opportunity there. So, but as far as matchups go, and you start thinking about all these moving pieces, how do you guys feel about what would you say our strongest suit is right now as far as what we can do to win this game on offensive or defensive side of the ball? What key matchup are you looking at specifically that's going to be a game changer?
Well, one of them for me is, and it's not necessarily a player on a player type of thing. What we need to look at is that Justin Herbert he's a great time management. He's a clock manager. Yes. He took that ball with 5 minutes left and ate the clock up. I think he was 4 on 4 on passes on third down. And I think that us being able to take that power away from him is going to be very, very key. The other one is that the Chargers were 3-8 last year when they turned the ball over. So we need Kazee, we need Hooker, we need these guys punching that ball out and forcing a turnover. Because if they're 3-8, it's a great odd for us. And I think that's going to be a key for us.
Definitely. D, what do you got?
Look, man, I agree with Cam's, but the big one that I'm going to look at, from a player on player is I'm going to look at our center, Tyler, man, if he's still in there, and Lindell Joseph. I mean, they run a 3-4 front, so they got a big old bowling ball in Lindell Joseph. Didn't he used to play for the Vikings, I believe? Wasn't he a
I believe so. Yeah, I think it was
I believe, but
don't
that
quote me on that.
you know that that guy is he's going to be a problem in blowing up the middle of your offense, and that's where quarterbacks don't like pressure up the middle. So I think it's going to be a key matchup, man. Again, to see what Dallas has to do, or to see how that how that position is exploited, because I think that he could wreck our game plan right up the middle. And so that's going to be a matchup that I'm looking at. The other one is they got Chris Harris Jr. He's a ball hawk. I think you're going to see him on Amari, and I want to see how that position battle fares out. And I think between those two, I'm always, and you guys know me, I told you my emphasis was going to try to look on the line, and so I'm always looking at matchups and how the other team, what type of D line they have, and I think I'm going to try to focus on the Lindell Joseph and then the Chris Harris Jr. and Amari, and see how they what CD, and that's why we believe CD is going to have a big game, because I think they're really going to try to take Amari out this game. So that's me.
I want to hop onto your the center point that you made, and I apologize. I did not catch who it was on the fan this morning. He says, go back and look at last week's tape. McGovern was actually calling play on the line and really? Signaling for the snap. And we're going to have to pay attention, and maybe it's going to be Zach this week. But it is not Tyler that's signaling for the snap. It was McGovern last week. I found that very interesting.
Wasn't making the line calls? That's interesting.
No, it was McGovern last week.
That's really interesting, especially with, even the lack of experience that he has within, the system. It probably will be Zach if that's the case. But I've dog ate my damn homework. D stole my Chris Harris Jr. tape. Bam. But and that's exactly what it is, and that's what me and him had also discussed at one point in time. It's we expect CD to really step his game up on this game in particular, just because of that they're going to single out Amari Cooper, right? So you got Derwin James back there, and he's going to be shadowing as well, right? So and then Chris Harris. They're going to try to use everything they can to their advantage, but one of these receivers is going to have a field day. He's going to have plenty of time on his hands. So I'm looking forward to that matchup, some of those matchups the most, but it don't matter who the hell you're going to put on CeeDee Lamb. I expect him to have a big game, this game in particular. And if they double up CD, let Amari Cooper eat. I'm fine either way. I'm not really – the only part of our offense that I'm concerned about is Terrence Steele specifically. I think we can – but I think that we can figure that out. Like we can make up some things that will help him and just get Zeke chipping Bosa out on the side there, getting the screens involved like we previously discussed, and running the rock right at him. Running it right at him. And just and that is really the best. A lot of people would say, well, you want to run away from no, run it right at him. That's going to be your best plan of action. So that's going to be interesting. On the defensive side of the ball, I got Diggs, right? Diggs needs to have another big game. He had a beautiful game against Mike Evans last week. I think he held him for, I don't even know. It was like a catch for 13 yards or something. Maybe 2 catches, 13 yards. It wasn't a lot. I know that much. So I need to see that. And I don't know what they're planning on doing with Diggs. If they're going to have him shadow a guy or they're going to leave him on that left side. Specifically, I don't know what the game plan is, because when you start thinking about, Mike Williams, that's a good matchup. He's a bigger body guy. I think Diggs would do really well against him. Not too speedy. Keenan Allen could be a little bit more of an issue, right? He's got some sweet feet, kind of like Amari Cooper. He's a great route runner. So that could be a little bit of a concern there. But as always, it's what is on the other side that really concerns me. When it comes to Anthony Brown, it's going to be a key factor in this game. And just like Terrence Steele, if it's your weak point, you got to get him some help, right? You got to get him some help over the top. And that really was a breakdown when AB broke loose on him. That was a breakdown. Right. There was no safety help over the top. He came up for a play over the middle. So we got to keep Brown with some help on that side, or we're going to have a long night, because Herbert's he's going to have a field day out there.
Right. Was that the play that they actually said the safety tripped? And that's not an excuse, because Brown got owned. But they came out with a video and said that the safety actually tripped, and that's why Brown got burnt so bad.
I didn't
That
see
doesn't
that
excuse
one.
those kind of numbers.
Yeah.
But still.
I didn't see that one
He's got to have help.
specifically, but from I believe I want to say that from everything that I heard is that the safety jumped a middle route. That's what I understood. I don't know. He already went to give help over top of the middle, so I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter. It wasn't just that one play. That was a big play, and it was huge. But he gave up, I don't know, I think he gave up 100-something yards or so. I mean, it was not good.
He had a tough game, man.
Yeah, he did. He did. And
So our tight ends are going to need to step up because they're not good blockers. Our best blocker, McKeon, is on IR. So, and that Zeke run, Jarwin missed that one hard, that block. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, in the red zone. And speaking, look, guys, I'm gonna go back. I just think, I think if memory serves me correct, I think they're a 3-4 front, right? They run an odd front, which means your guards are going to be uncovered unless they do something different. Our guards, which Zach Martin is our best lineman, our power running game should be there. His ability, Zach Martin, to get to the second level, I think running is actually going to be a key this week because of that front. And even if they walk those backers up, and you know what I mean, they bring their DNs down inside and walk their backers up, whatever. If you get through that first wave, I mean, I expect to see a heavy running game. I think we're going to bloody them, even with Steele. I think because they're front, if they don't do anything weird and they stay in that odd front, I think Dallas is going to just walk all over and run all over them. So I'm looking for a big day from these backs.
Yeah, I'm looking for a big day offensively in general as well too. I mean, from everything that I saw and what the Washington football team was able to put together, even with a backup quarterback out there, they were still doing pretty good. They were moving the ball on them. So I'm just not intimidated by this defense, nowhere near like I was against the Buccaneers defense. And I think we can really open this thing up. But it's kind of one of those situations where it's, it could be a similar, high point, air ball type game. I don't know what to expect. I would rather, but like as Dee's saying, I would rather kind of control that clock, run it, run the ball down their throats, wear them out, and then we can throw over the top. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to seeing in this game. But either way,
I want to see a better performance in the red zone too.
100%.
I'm so done
100%.
with our performance in the red zone.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous with the talent we have.
You have to convert those turnovers into 7.
You do.
You have to convert them into 7, man. We can't afford to see 3. These teams are going to come back firing just the way that Brady did. Like, we can't afford to settle for field goals or even miss field goals, right? We can't get. I don't even want to see him on the field because I want touchdowns. I want to see him on the field for extra points, and that's it. And
2-point conversions. Let's
barely even want to see him on the field for that. Exactly. So yeah, that's gonna be we do. That's a great point, Cam. We do need to get better at red zone.
Yeah.
There was times where we were getting turnovers and on their side of the field, and we are in great position to score. And it's just the mistakes too, right? It's the little mistakes, the little details, the offside penalties, false starts, whatever. We can't afford to keep. We got to be a mentally strong team. Those are the teams that make it to championships. You got to be mentally strong. You got to be prepared.
You cannot have the conversion rate that these guys have had in the red zone the last 2 years. You just can't.
Yes.
And I think wasn't Tampa was like 4 for 4.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that is literally the difference in the game. I know we talk about, for all the run versus pass and defense, guys, you convert on your red zone opportunities and you win that game.
And they did. And that's exactly how they won that game. So it should have been that way for us. But yeah, great point. And that's what we do need to improve this week. But overall, it's going to be a really great game against the Chargers this week in LA. And I'm excited for it. But make sure that you guys like and subscribe to this channel because we got some great content coming for you guys in the near future. And when you subscribe, press that notification button so you can be updated on all of our future shows that we have coming up. And again, it's some great content. I hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys on Sunday. We're out.